What up, my people? ¿Qué pasa, mi gente? Welcome, bienvenidos to another episode, otro episodio de Hoy en Día TV. I'm your host and producer, Yessi Rodriguez, bringing on to the stage my amazing co-hosts. We have author, entrepreneur, business owner, writer, Nadine Barton. Yes, travel agent also. Welcome, Nadine.
Hello.
We also have Dr. Cece, the author, entrepreneur, business owner. Welcome to Hoy en Día, Cece.
Hey. Happy Thursday, everybody.
Yes, my amazing co-host. These two, I always appreciate them coming on and being here with me, holding the fort down because, yeah, we talk about some deep stuff in here and we always have some amazing guests. So today is no different because we're going to be talking another deep conversation and we have another amazing guest. So ladies, Nadine, let's start with you. How was your week? It's been a whole week since we last saw each other visually. I know we communicate on Messenger, so.
Right. My week's been great. I'm just trying to navigate this weather. What's going on with June? What? I almost said June. Can you believe it? We're going to be in August tomorrow. Oh my gosh. And this weather, but come to think about it. This time last year, it was the same way. The weather was the same because I remember my high school friend was here for her birthday and we went to Savannah and we had to jet back to Atlanta because there was a hurricane coming in. So it's crazy. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, that sounds pretty suspect. I agree. So it sounds like there's a pattern going on. We have to probably look into that for another show, like looking historical data on the weather and how right, how often the trends happen at certain times and days and interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad hey, we are determined to find out the truth here. I mean, this is what we're about here, right? We understand that there's a lot of BS going on in this world, but here at Hoy en Día, that is what we're about. We want to make sure that you all are well informed, well equipped, and to the best of our knowledge when we're doing the research, sharing the correct information. So I feel you, sis. Also, Cece, how have you been, my dear?
Yeah, all is well. Just on the road again, heading to Panama City, Florida. So we got a long drive ahead of us, but the traffic is good. We're rolling. So yeah, life is lovely.
Beautiful. Well, safe travels for sure. Thank you, McLean. Good evening, ladies. Yes, good evening to you as well. We appreciate you for tuning in. Hello. Yes. Well, a lot has happened in the last week since we've been on. And I know I recently shared a video with you all pertaining to a child predator. So it's a video called Confessions of a Child Predator, Identifying Targets and Grooming. And why this is important is because the school season is starting up, the traditional school season, right? There's like different types of variations with school. We have homeschooling, we have like all year round. However, the traditional school, which typically starts at the end of August, all the way through December, and then they catch a break for the holiday, and then they go back in January. Just be mindful of your children, and if you let them go to the bus stop out the street by themselves or go hang out with friends, who they're around, who's going to be around, and the adult that's going to be watching them. And so, Nadine, I know you had a chance to catch the video. Before I share my thoughts, I just want to get your thoughts on what did you think about that video?
Listen, I was cringing. I mean, I don't have any kids myself, but I do have friends, family members with kids. And even if I didn't, this is crazy. When I was watching the video, this man, and I know that I read some of the comments, I had to get out of there because people were like, why is this man still alive to talk about this? We don't want to wish death on anybody, right? But this man was talking about, I guess, remind me, Yessi, was he a coach or what was his title? I forgot. I believe he was I don't know if he was a gym coach, but I know he had something to do with like the school system, and I don't know the age groups, but the lady was interviewing him and she was merely asking him, so how do you get your victims, or how do you get to meet these children? And he's like, I go after single parents. He go after people that he knows that if the dad is not involved, he made sure that when the lady was asking him, he said, well, ask them, how's your day going, and if they're like kids that get bullied or off to the side, he target those kids, you know, if people or their parents are not actively involved. So basically he's watching them first before he targeted the kids. So it was so cringy to watch.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so, yeah, the video was shared by Dr. Free Hess, who is a pediatrician, and there was an opportunity to interview a child predator. And I agree with you, Nadine. Child predators are different shapes, sizes. So just being mindful of who is around. Some of the warning signs to consider with of a child predator: overly interested in children. So the person who spends more time with the kids and adults, even when it seems inappropriate for their age group. Also, that grooming behavior that gives children excessive gifts, attention, or favors to gain trust. Attempts to isolate children, tries to arrange that one-on-one time, sleepovers or private outings, and simply just ignores boundaries, shows little respect for personal space, or disregards rules set by the parents. Also, relationship with adults, attempts to befriend parents or guardians to gain access to children. Offers excessive help. This means volunteers for child-related activities or babysitting without being asked. Gets defensive when questioned. So this person would react with anger or tries to guilt trip when their behavior is being challenged. And then online behaviors, so asks children for personal information such as your address, phone number, school details. Seeks in those private chats, encourages secret conversations, video calls, meetings in person, sends your child inappropriate messages or images. Any sexualized communication with a minor is a major red flag. And this is important because a lot of the parents, they use social media, tablets, cell phones to distract your child, but you just have to be mindful as a parent. Please know who your child is communicating, what they're watching, what they're doing. Please make sure it's productive. I think, Cece, do you have a comment to share about that? I thought your audio turned on for a second there.
You know, it's sad that this guy is like that and that we have to deal with these types of things, but it's really good to get into the mind of a criminal, meaning that they do share, you know, the ins and outs, you know, of what's going on. Like, you know, they've had different shows with criminals on showing you how to, you know, protect your home and easy, you know, points for your doors they can get in and all of these types of things. So I'm grateful for the fact that we're getting some inside information, but it is very sickening to my stomach that, you know, we have these types of pedophiles that are out there. And, you know, a lot of times families and parents, they think that, you know, they tell their kids, you know, you do the best you can, right? Okay, stranger danger, scream and yell, do all these things, right? And you think that they won't go with a stranger, and they had like a thing. It was like it was like a show, but they were doing some stuff, testing children to see if they would get into the cars with strangers or just get into the cars with neighbors that they knew. You know what I'm saying? And even though the parents had like told them, don't do this, don't do that, they thought that their kids were good. The kids were still like going with strangers. They were still going with people that they knew, you know, that was around the family and stuff like that. And so it's interesting, you know, and one parent had did that to her child, and just to kind of see what, you know, what her kid was going to do. And of course the kid went right along with them. You know what I'm saying? And so they had it all on camera. But, you know, we really gotta, you know, because even with my kids, I was thinking about doing that, just like not trying to trick them, but just trying to see if they would indeed go with a stranger or go with the neighbor that, you know, we know and we hang out with, you know, because I tell my kids, I'm like, even my son yesterday, I was like, you don't go with anyone unless I give you specific directions. You don't go with anyone. I don't care if you know them or if you don't know them. I don't care. He's like, what if it's my grandparents? You don't go with anyone unless, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it's really sad to say, but even in our families, you know, some people just prey upon children, and so they don't know. So we have to really do our best to protect them. And so I'm thankful that, you know, the information is out there, so it will help us to, you know, better protect them and stuff like that. But yeah, my question is the same, Nadine. Like, why is this guy out? Like, is he not at jail? Like, what's going on with that situation?
And the thing with that is, this guy, he's a coach. He said, you know, he'll watch the children and he'll watch them to see, you watch their financial situation, and he'll like basically just monitor and watch to see which one he wants to molest. Like, you're not in a supermarket, you're not in a toy store picking out a toy. These are children, you know what I mean? So he'll watch them, monitor them, check out their financial situations, check out their parents if they're a single parent. These are the things these predators look for. And we're talking about don't go with anyone, but this was a teacher. You know, what do you tell the kid? Don't talk to your teacher. I mean, they didn't know. You know what I mean? So it's
Well,
not like
even
there's
with the
good
teachers
trust.
for my kid, with the teacher with my kid, you know, I tell him the same thing. I'm like, if anybody makes you feel uncomfortable, you speak about it. And
Mhm.
I tell him I'm very specific, like, you know, you share this, you share that, you know, so on and so forth. And I need to know, because I tell him, I say, people will be nice and people will do this, but if anytime you feel uncomfortable in any kind of way, you need to let me know, because mommy will fix it, and mommy will fix it. Okay. Uh, right. So, and one another thing is about developing that relationship with your children, because if you don't have an
Mhm.
open dialogue with your children, they're not going to come to you for anything. So you got to be sure not, you know, when they do come and tell you stuff, don't scream and yell and get all upset or be like, you know, you got to like listen and ask more questions. So they'll be more prone to come and to like tell you things. Right now, I'm so grateful that my kiddos, they do talk to me about different things. I'm blessed because I know not every family has that. And then I also know, you know, when you're a single parent and you're trying to make ends meet and you're tired and you don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm still like, at the end of the day, we still got to push and press for our kids. I don't care if you got to work
Mhm.
5 jobs, you have got to some kind of way make time for your children, make them know that you are still present. You know, you might not can be to every PTA meeting, to every football game, soccer game, but you can still make your children know. I remember we were very young and we were latchkey kids because my mom had to work. But I tell you this, my mom spent quality time with us. Quality time. You know, after my parents divorced, she still spent quality time and she worked. You know what I'm saying? But we knew right from wrong, good from bad. She was very, very present. She was always telling us about good touch and bad touch and all of those things. And to let her know, like, she impressed it upon us. So even though, like I said, she was single, you know, raising us and stuff, you know, just in the home, my dad, you know, brought financial support. But I knew. So you can still make a difference whether you're in a single, you know, family home or not. Yeah. Yeah. This is really disheartening.
Yeah, no. And I'm so glad you both shared that information and the perspectives, because I will say this, there are still good people that exist out here, right? There are good people and there's a way to differentiate. So, a good person compared to a predator, this is some of the things, some of the good qualities that you will see. That person respects boundaries. So a good person will respect the rules you set for your child without any pushback, understand the personal space and the appropriate touch, does not insist on spending time alone with a child when you say no. A predator, on the other hand, tries to override or question your boundaries. You're being too strict, or it's just harmless fun, right? Looks for ways to isolate a child from trusted adults, pushes for private time or secret interactions. Also, motives for interaction. So, a good person interacts with children naturally, usually as a part of a group or an age appropriate context, such as, I mean, and this is kind of like gray here simply because we know that this individual that we're speaking about was a coach, because here the example being shared is like a teacher, a coach, family, friend. But this coach thankfully got caught up, right? And so now the light was shed on that person to say, hey, you are a predator, back away. A predator also will show unusual, intense, or one on one interest in children beyond what's normal for their role or age, and gives disproportionate gifts, favors, or attention to win over a child. The secrecy and transparency. So, a good person will communicate openly with you as a parent and encourage a parent child transparency. Involves you in the plans and messages and outings to say, hey, can I take Susie for ice cream? And I would love for you to come as well. You know, something along those lines, especially if you're like a godparent or an aunt or uncle, what have you, similar to what Cece was sharing, because family members can unfortunately have those traits as well, where they may have that bad intention for your child. So just being mindful of how a good person and a bad person or a predator in that context would look like. A good
Yes.
person.
So big. Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, they groom these kids, and it's so funny because I was watching a video. It was like some weeks ago. A young lady in the Bronx on the train. This guy was in public, hugging and trying to kidnap the lady, and some men jumped on him on the train. So they're getting braver and braver every day. This was literally in.
So the other day, um, Nadine, remember about, I want to say it's been about a month or so, we were speaking about a similar topic because it was about a child that was walking home from school and there was a man that approached a child.
Yes, I remember.
And because they walked that same route, the neighbor that was always looking out that window realized what was happening. And so with that in mind, Nadine and I were conversing, and this was food for thought that we shared at that point. Have a passcode or a word or a sentence for your child. So for example, if your child's walking home from school, in this example here, this child was walking home. This was the same route they took all the time. A person that was always watching them pulled up in a car. We're trying to say, oh, your mom told me to pick you up, blah, blah, blah. He was almost really close to getting in the car. But then another woman pulled up and tried to be the hero. And she said, no, 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 no. Don't go with that person. Your mom told me to pick you up. That's a stranger. However, they were working together.
Right. They were
together. And the scary part was that this kid was like, okay, well, maybe mom did say to pick, send these people to pick me up. But this kid has never seen these two people in their life. And so luckily, the neighbor that always watched that same kid walking down that street or that area ran outside and was the hero. And he was like, no, 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 no. First of all, who are you? I'd never seen you pick up this child. And this child been going through the same route for years, walking home from school, the same route. Like, no. And so once that neighbor that was always vigilant, always watching, became the hero, those two people ran off and they drove off somewhere.
Right.
But the scary part is that they're still out somewhere. Hopefully they get caught up soon. But number two is that as a parent, if you're going to have your child walk home from school, create a passcode or a word or something to alert them to say, hey, so-and-so is going to pick you up. And so let's say Betty Sue is going to pick you up. Betty Sue better know that passcode, because if Betty Sue don't know the passcode, then she ain't picking nobody up. Bottom line, right?
That's a good point, to have passcodes and things like that. You really need that to kind of talk in code. I remember me and my husband, it was for fun though, but we were like going out, to different events and things. And like, if we wanted to go or leave because we were like totally bored, of course, like we had this look, like he would kind of touch his nose and kind of like hold it for a few seconds. You know what I'm saying? Just something very subtle that people really wouldn't know. But if I saw him kind of like, holding his nose, for longer than intended, I knew like, okay, he's bored. He wants to go. So we were doing like little stuff like that. But it's important. You got to do that now, it's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, so bottom line is watch your kids, know who they're around. School season is coming up. Please protect our children, because a lot is happening out here with our kids. And consider creating that passcode. Don't always rely on the cell phone. All right, so we're going to pivot over. We have a guest patiently waiting behind the scenes. Nadine, I know this was the guest that you brought on for us. So would you be willing to do us the honors to introduce our amazing guest before we bring him on? You are on mute, so if you're... I
was saying, I have to pull up his bio so I could do that. So one moment.
Oh, yeah, no problem. No problem. So while Nadine does that, so we are excited to have another amazing guest. And this conversation is going to be pretty interesting. I had a chance to read his bio. There's a lot that he does. And so I'm really thrilled to have him speak on just overall, just how he does everything, especially once Nadine has a chance to read his bio. Now I'm keeping you all on your feet, on your toes. You're probably like, yes, they tell me more, but you just have to wait until Nadine decides to say that. Oh, God.
Technology, computers, slow, and all this other stuff. So I'm just trying to.
Oh, no, you're good. So with that, Cece, how's your drive going? So far, so good still?
I think it was kind of breaking in and out. You said, how's the what?
How's your drive going? Still so far, so good?
It's good. Traffic's good. Popo was sitting over to the side, and I was kind of getting down on it because I'm a speed demon. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, man, don't tell me he's going to come and try and get me now. But it was another car. For a minute, and here in America, let's just kind of gripe about this for a minute, because here in America is the only place where you'll have everybody doing the same speed limit across 3-4 lanes. I hate it. When I lived in Europe, right? No one, if you were on the autostrada, right, that's their freeway, You moved over. No one was riding in that left lane. It was simply to pass and to get back over, and they did that. So you'll see them barreling down the highway, flashing their lights, and so you're like, okay, get out of the way. You know what I'm saying? But here in America, you got like 25 lanes, and everybody's doing the same speed limit. I go crazy. I'm like, you can't get anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And I drive this big old truck, right? So I'm like, I can't ease it out, like in the car. So I'm like, oh my goodness, but it'll go because it's a V8. But I'm like, man, it's just too big. I can't fit in the space when I'm trying to get over. And I'm just like, get over. And they're like, you'll ride their butts, And I don't like riding people's butts because I know I don't let people ride my butt. But I'm like, get out of the lane already,
No. You know what my pet peeve is? My pet peeve is when people don't use turn signals. It's like, okay, if you're trying to go to the left or the right, I'm not a mind reader. And you're about to cause an accident, especially if you're trying to, like what's happening here. So drivers, please, we're not mind readers. Do that road etiquette. Put your turn signals. If you're going left, go left. Go right. Right. Come on.
Preaching to the choir. They're not going to listen. Most of them, anyway.
I hope they do, because if not, hopefully the popos will watch y'all and give y'all a ticket. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. I'm ready, guys. I'm ready.
Yes. Go for it, sis.
So I had the pleasure of meeting Air Force Colonel Jason Markiewitz. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about his bio before we bring him on. So Jason Markiewicz is a colonel in the United States Air Force and has spent more than 27 years wearing the uniform. In addition to numerous stateside assignments, he also served in South Korea, Italy, Afghanistan, and the Balkans. During his assignment to Allied Forces South Europe, headquarters Naples, Italy, in 2002-2003, he was part of NATO contingent sent forward to the region once known as Yugoslavia, where he spent time primarily in Kosovo and in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to pronounce this word. Herzegovina. He is a writer and award-winning audiobook narrator and audio dramatist, a theatrical, film, commercial voice actor, a game designer, and a poet. He is married to his high school sweetheart, and they share 3 children. Sarajevo Roses is second book of poetry following his 2003 publication of Beneath the Mojave Desert Moon, Morris Publishing. In his book, Markiewicz weaves a collection of poetry and photographs based upon the second Kosovo campaign in 2002 to 2003. Then Captain, now Colonel Jason Markiewicz, was forward deployed to the Balkans in 2003. At the end of the second Kosovo campaign, and with the NATO contingent experience the harrowing after effects of the war-torn region. This collection has been called Raw, Unforgiven, and Beautiful, with numerous 5-star reviews on Amazon, and is available for your purchase wherever you get your books online. So you guys go and pick up your copy of Sarajevo Roses. I got my signed copy right here. Hello. And welcome, Colonel Jason Markiewicz.
Hi. That was a fantastic introduction there. I'm going to have to meet that guy.
It's awesome. I'm glad to see you again. It was a pleasure meeting you at the book signing. You were so down to earth, and I just love that about you. I mean, yeah, you're a colonel in the Air Force, right? I mean, but I'm like, he was so down to earth. And I mean, I know I'm retired, but I'm like, sir. So, call me Jason,
That's right.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, absolutely. And likewise. Yeah. And it was great to talk to you too, because you see every so often vendors come in that are former military, sometimes not always retired, but, veterans, and they'll have a booth set up in the BX. And it's fun because I'm part of the literary and arts community, and it's fun to go through and support other writers and other actors when they do their work. Right. Whether it's there at the BX or going to, a local theater and watching them on stage or whatever the case is.
Absolutely. You have a very extensive resume. And I'm like, oh, Italy, 2002, 2003. I left Italy, actually. I was in Naples, Italy. I think I told you about that. I left Italy when October 2002 and went to Maryland. So you were probably just coming in when I was leaving.
Yeah.
I was at the hospital in Agnano, so I don't think they exist anymore, though.
Yeah, I lived in the Monte Spina Hotel in Bagnoli.
Oh,
Right
Bagnoli,
there
okay.
until they decided to actually put us on base, and that took a little while.
Right. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, definitely impressive bio, and welcome to Oyendia TV.
Thank you.
It's so intriguing. I love that I have you on here, then I have Nadine and Cece that all have military experience and background based on your active duty. So thank you all for just serving our country and helping us make sure that we remain safe and sound. But with that in mind, I love to pick your brain on a typical day in the life of you in your role when how was the day in the life? Walk us through, like what does that look like?
Well, so I'll caveat this by saying that most of my career has been fairly non-standard, and I left active duty service after 6 years and became a reservist. I spent a couple of years as a part-time reservist and then became full-time again. And it's pretty much been the same ever since. And that's as of about 2008. So for the vast majority of my 27 years, I've been on full-time, either active duty or in an active status of some sort. But the beauty of being a reserve officer or a reserve member in general is you have a little more control over where you go. So you're not necessarily beholden to the cycle of standard moves as active duty would be. But that also brings with it, it's the blessing and the curse mentality. So if you can only go so far in your current position, they still want you to move. So you got to start looking for options. The beauty of it is you apply just like every other job to be able to go somewhere. So if you get to a location, you don't like it, that's on you. I mean, you asked to go there. So there you have it. But you also get a chance to talk with the family and make sure that each move and each place you go is a little bit more agreed upon, I guess, than just being told where you're going to go. So that's been very nice. So these last 3 assignments that I've had from Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina, and now here at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia, have been geo-separated from my family. So they live in California at our last, full-time duty station that we had out there when I was the ROTC commander at Sacramento State University. And so they're still out there in the Sacramento area. And so for the last, this is year number 4 that we've lived apart. So go back every month, back home. So it's a lot of airfare. Delta and I have a great relationship. But being able to actually get back, and be part of the family again, is very important. So I try not to spend too many weeks away before getting back home. So when you ask about what is the day in the life, well, it's a little bit different because it kind of depends on what day you're talking about. I have a pretty regular work schedule as a staff officer, here at Robins. So the kind of standard, 8 to 5 kind of schedule that not necessarily too early, don't really have to stay too late. But I get a chance to do the things I enjoy doing in the evenings as well. So I'm bigger into fitness than I have been in most of my life. So I try to run 1,000 miles a year. And this year I'm on the track. My goal this year is 1,200 miles. So I try to get about 100 miles a month. And so that's been taxing me, but so far I'm on track. And then, I'm 7 months in, right? So I've already gone, it's on the downhill slope, right? So you've got to keep going now.
Right.
But I also play on the Headquarters Air Force Reserve Command softball team. I enjoy writing, doing my voice acting work, creating audio dramas and audio productions. When I get a chance, traveling and seeing a few things. So the day is not always standard, but I think at this point in my career as a division chief, as they call it, a staff officer here at Robins, it gives me the flexibility to put in place the right conditions for those who are younger and newer in the service to be able to have the things they need to be successful. They're on the way up. I'm on the way out. So trying to make sure that they've got the ability to do the things they need to do for their careers and be great professionals in their jobs. And then also to kind of focus on what's next for me. I have a year left. So that's where the writing and the acting and, looking at the future, possibilities come in.
That is impressive. Amazing. Yes. And just looking at your bio too, Sarajevo Roses is your second poetry collection, which is following the 2003 debut of Beneath the Mojave Desert Moon.
Yeah, it's Mojave, right? The Mojave Desert in California. It's where I have a lot of family history in that area. My grandfather and my grandma and grandpa had their house, there in the Mojave area. So I pretty much grew up down there most weekends, going out and enjoying time there with my grandparents. But then also the town I grew up in was about 30 miles or so up into the mountains, a town called Tehachapi. And that's where a lot of the pictures come from. It's kind of a small town. It's grown a lot over the years, but was very small when I was a kid, and played Little League baseball. A lot of friends. My dad was a dentist in town, so of course I couldn't get away with anything at school because the teachers saw him as their dentist and they'd rat on me. So that's the way it goes. But a lot of my good friends, we played baseball together and went down to the park and rode bikes and went to each other's birthday parties and that kind of stuff. So I have a very good, history with the area. And so my first collection of poetry, I wanted to split into two sections. One was about life in the area, and the second was kind of about finding my love, which was my high school sweetheart there in that area as well. So that was the first collection, but I would say that it was obviously the first, right? It was one that I don't think that was very refined. I think it was a train of thought kind of poetry. It's unique. It's gotten, a lot of people, like it, and that's amazing, and I'm very appreciative. But I can go back and I read it now, and I'm like, okay, that was young, that was then. And I'm hoping that this collection, even though most of the poems in Sarajevo Roses are from writings I did in 2003, they were important to capture at the time, the things I saw that day, to go back and write them down, to journal about them, to take the photographs in the areas where we were, to capture at that time, not to go back and try to find a photo that was reminiscent of the time, but to capture what I saw at that moment. And I thought that was very important, to be able to capture those things. So I think this is a much more mature collection than the first one was, for a variety of reasons. But I think it's also about the subject matter. It's much more serious subject matter than the first one, which had a very lighthearted tone.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Before I ask my follow-up question, Nadine or Cece, any questions for our guest?
Yes, I think you answered some of it. I was going to ask you, what inspired you to turn your deployment experiences into poetry? You did answer us a lot of some of those questions, but what really inspired you? Like you're in the war, you're in the middle of the war, and you're like, okay, I need to write this down. I need to capture this. Like, what really inspired you to do that?
Well, let me back up just a moment, because I'm very clear in my book that this is not like I didn't face enemy fire. I was not in conflict, right? This is the after effects of the war. It was a peacekeeping force. So there was no hostile action that I was facing, but what we were there to do was to stabilize, make sure that things, kept calm and that kind of thing. So really, when we went around to these regions, in specific, primarily Bosnia and Herzegovina and in Kosovo, those two regions felt a lot, and you can just see in the pictures that the destruction, the damage, the what happened during those campaigns. It's all over, and so there's no more bombs falling. There's no more munitions that are being shot. There's no more people that are in the streets, taking fire. It's what is the countryside and the environment like after all of that has stopped? And so it's that silence, it's that pain that you can see in the landscape, in the houses, and sometimes in the people. That this was it was very important for the oppressing forces to be removed from that area, for sure. And Slobodan Milosevic's crowd from Serbia was kicked out. That was largely due to the NATO forces that helped significantly in that campaign. But now it's about what happens to life in Kosovo after that. How does Sarajevo recover when in the mid 80s, the Winter Olympics were in Sarajevo? It was beautiful. The blue and white apartment buildings that were across the street from the Holiday Inn, that was where Olympic Village was, turned into houses where snipers lived. The Holiday Inn, which had the Olympic ring still on the outside, which I did not get a good picture of. But you see 50 caliber munition impact rounds all around the Olympic rings, right? I mean, this tells you that the fight was downtown, it was there. And this is what people had to live through. And so just seeing those things, and with the contingent that I was with, some of the guys who had been there during those times that were kind of going back on a second and a third tour, really helped fill in some of the pieces for what I was seeing. I'd ask them questions. You mentioned something about this. What does this mean? What is this about? And they'd kind of give some backstory about what they saw the previous time they were there and what that really meant. And so I captured a lot of those vignettes and those locations and went back those evenings and I wrote about them. And being able to capture them sometimes in prose and sometimes in poetry was just kind of like what I felt that day. So I think some of the more descriptive things that were there turned themselves into better poems, where some of the chronological things worked more as prose. So I was able to capture some of the more impactful scenes, impactful locations, impactful things, and turn those into what you get in Sarajevo Roses.
Awesome. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
That's pretty
absolutely.
amazing.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah, you're the first person I heard say, like, a goal of running 1,000 miles in a year. Like, I've never heard that before. How'd you come to that goal?
It's a great question. So I heard on the radio today about the reinstitution of the presidential fitness program, and I couldn't be more excited because I did that when I was in school and it ended in 2013. So it's great that's coming back. And I think, fitness has kind of had that love-hate relationship with the United States, right? I mean, we've all gotten bigger. The society's gotten fatter. It's just the way it works, and during COVID, where a lot of people were stuck home, I was well overweight for sure. And I just made it a point to myself saying, I'm not getting any younger. Let's go ahead and start doing something about this. And so I started running and I just set a goal. The ROTC cadets that I was in charge of at Sacramento State and I ran for charity. And so we kind of had that motivating factor to start running. And in 8.5 months that year, I did 1,008 miles. And of course, lost, probably close to 30 pounds during that whole time. And then in the next year, I followed it up with a 1,200 mile a year. And I was really proud of myself, only to get a little bit injured the following year. And it dropped off to a little about 800 or so. But now here we are a few years later. I have not been able to get back to that 1,000. And I told myself this is the year. So that's why I'm pushing myself into it. The last 3 years have been short and I'm not going to be short again.
Wow. Excuse me. I'm just going to grab my charger. My computer's about to die.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I commend you on that. That is fantastic. Yeah, like I said, that was the first we hear someone say that. So I just thought that was totally fantastic. I'm going to give you a little bit of grief, sir, because I'm Navy, and actually Warner Robins was our last duty station. I was active and then retired. My husband was still active, and he's Air Force. And so when I was deployed for Operation Iraqi Freedom, we were over in the Middle East, and we had our 3 days R&R, and they said, hey, you're going to go over to the Air Force side. Where I was at, it was desert and sands and all those things. And then we get to the Air Force side. You guys had palm trees and grass and swimming pools, I was like, what's going on here? Like, are we fighting the same war? Like, what's going on?
Rough. It's a rough life, hardship tour.
You got to choose the best. Yeah.
Right. You're right. That part.
The best branch.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you. So you've had assignments all over the world, South Korea, Italy, Afghanistan. How have these global experiences shaped your perspective on life overall and your leadership?
Well, those are great questions. The first one I've actually kind of addressed in conversations with colleagues over the last year or two, especially because you have this time right now in the United States where it's what does patriotism mean? Who's thankful to be here? What is being thankful to be here all about? What kind of a country are we in? What do we want to leave for our kids and our grandkids and all these kind of things? And I start thinking about the fact that, I was born here in the US. If I had never left, all I would know is what's here. And I think the beauty of coming home from some of these places has really reinforced the goodness of being an American and being here. And I think that some of the travels and seeing societies in other parts of the world have really been important. South Korea, very Western, right? I mean, I love my time over there for sure. I've been there a lot. Spent a whole year at Kunsan Air Base, and then I've been to Osan Air Base in Daegu. For the Second Operations Command since then, but those locations are, I mean, it's a very nice country to be in. Very respectful population. I love it. I can't say anything bad about being in South Korea. It's great. But you're also in an area where the Korean War has not actually ever ended, right? It's only an armistice since 1953. So the war technically is still going on. And so every time you're there, you're thinking, well, at any point things could go sideways. And so it's a unique environment to be in, because you don't have any feeling like that in any stateside assignment. You know, there's no what could happen, right? If North Korea came south, well, they're not here in the United States. So that's a very unique circumstance there. Being in Italy was interesting because you see cultural differences in a European nation that was kind of not the first group to get into the European Union. So they really had to retool a lot of their economy to be part of it. But you also have so much history and you know, seeing the Vatican in Rome and getting out to places like Pisa and Florence and Venice, you know, were just beautiful. But you see all these and these locations, and you realize, you know, that each of these places have their own unique feel and flavor to it, but there's still just no place like home. It's great to see and great to be there, love it, but you just are ready to get back home. In Afghanistan, one of the things I found the most interesting there, and why it's so painful to me how the 2021 departure worked out, is I remember being a Bagram in 2016, and we were in line at the chow hall, and I'm seeing this line of people in front of me, and I just start striking up conversation. And I'm asking them, well, what are you guys doing out here? And I noticed they had SF on their sleeve, so security forces. And so I was asking, you know, what you guys are doing. And they turned around and they let me know that they were actually reservists who were there on orders from the NYPD. They were all NYPD officers that were there to train the Afghan National Police on how to be better cops, right? And so those kind of stories never made it to the news, right? The good news doesn't make news, bad news makes news. So when you have a situation like that you realize that there was so much good that was going on over there, and so many things that were positive, and so many women that had gone to school, and so many high degrees that had been completed, that in 20 years, there are some people who never knew they couldn't go to school because that's all they knew in life, and now they can't. And it's very painful to see that situation has turned around, but it goes to show you that there still is no place like home. That kind of a thing doesn't happen here. You know, there's not a time where all of a sudden nationally they're going to be like, nope, girls can't go to school anymore. And yet there it was, and that's what happened. So it's unique. Every place you go brings another piece of information to you that you, hopefully, if you're thinking through it well, makes you much more thoughtful and much more grateful to hear and to have the freedoms and the constitutional protections and rights that we have here in this country that other countries just don't have. And you really have to kind of take that, you know, with a dose of humility that we get to be here. And I think that has really formed a lot of the way I see life, the patriotic viewpoints that I have from being able to see other cultures and come back here.
I'm so glad you shared that, because I agree. Nowadays, I feel like that's where a lot of our news is, that negativity, keeping that negative mindset with the audience and listeners. And so for you to say that here, I thank you for sharing that, because there was positive situations that derive from your experiences being in these foreign countries, especially like you were mentioning Afghanistan. So I thank you for being that vessel to say, hey, there was good that was actually happening there outside
Absolutely.
of what we saw on TV, because that's what the media, for some reason, they feed off of that negative energy. And I'm like, why? No. Yeah. You know, before I ask my follow-up question, Nadine, do you have any questions to ask our guest?
I was just going to say, that's the best thing about being in the military, is just like experiencing other cultures. You know, I think I love that part of being in the military, just experience the different cultures. Yeah. And one question that I had was, so what advice would you give like a new author coming up, or like a person in the military that wants to write, or even a civilian that's in the military or work for the military that wants to write? And do you see any setback with that, or any advice that you could give as far as that?
Well, I'll tell you the advice. Let me start with a very short, quick vignette to Sarajevo Roses. I wrote most of this. In fact, I mean, 99% of it was written back in 2003. You know, it was edited and polished and fine-tuned to make sure that it met what I was looking for in the book. But these were files that were sitting on my computer, pictures that were sitting in a file somewhere. And a friend of mine in South Carolina pushed me to get this done. And so the advice would be is kind of like the go do it, right? If you've got this in you, if you can write a story, if you are a poet, if you're a photographer, if you're a fiction writer, if you're a children's writer, just start writing. The writer's block can be for a variety of things, but you don't want your lack of motivation to go forward to be part of that writer's block. You know, sometimes you end up with, I just don't know where to go from here. We'll write something else then, but keep writing. And I think that's important. I've had a lot of people talk about, well, you've been in other places. Have you written other things? And I have. I'm like, well, when are those coming out? Well, you know, let's not go too fast, you know, but let's think through these. So I would say just get to it, get writing. If you're a writer and you've got things that are, you know, in your mind and you want to put it down on paper, you know, start now and start getting those words down. Some of the landmines and some of the obstacles to get through, well, sometimes if you are actively serving in the military, and even sometimes if you're retired or post-military service, and you are writing something that has some sort of military capability in the book that could be derived from experiences you had that could dance on intelligence, classified material, things like that, you have to still submit your manuscript for pre-publication review. So it's important to remember, you know, if you're a military writer and you're writing, you know, fanciful fiction, probably not a big deal. But if you're writing something like a Tom Clancy style or a Clive Cussler style, but you're using stuff that you know that is based on work that you've done, you've got to send that through the security office to make sure that you don't have any classified material in your work. So, and then they'll give you the clearance for publication. You can go after that. But the last thing you want to do is avoid that step. You get it published, and all of a sudden now you've, you know, gotten in trouble for divulging classified information and things like that. So it's just important to do the steps in the right order. And it really only applies to people who had military service that had clearances.
Right. I would hope that people are not writing and putting classified, you know, information in their books.
One would hope. Yeah. But I mean, even this one, right, is poetry. But I still sent it through, you know, and I said, I don't know if any, because none of this stuff is classified. I can tell you, because I've held clearances for my whole career. And I'll tell you, none of this stuff is, but I'm going to do all the right things and I'm going to send it through you guys, and you can enjoy the book and let me know what you think at the end, you know, and they send it back and they're like, no, obviously, no, nothing in here is classified. Everything is fine. But thanks for letting me read it. It was really nice. I was like, okay, good review. I appreciate that.
And I have one last question. I know you probably have some questions to ask, but I have one last question. So being on active duty, did you get any setbacks with you selling your books? Because I know somebody that's in the military. Well, she, you know, the person is actually a civilian and wrote a book, and they gave her so much kickback, and you know, with, you know, selling her books, and you know, and the thing is, the book was about that person, not anything about the military.
Wow.
I have not. I haven't heard of any. So I think it's, you know, each situation can be unique. I do know that, and I just found this out, Nadine, actually in our discussion about potentially setting up, you know, some sort of a signing booth at the BX and things like that. That's the base exchange for everybody else. The exchange here on Robbins, it's kind of like our base Walmart, you know, and setting up a little booth in there to do book signings. And per our regulations with the Air Force, can't do that if you're on active duty status. So you can't be selling, you know, stuff on base. So I was unaware, but I'm glad that, you know, I asked those questions before we, you know, got down the road to that point. So those are just things to consider. Doesn't stop me from doing book signings at local bookstores or coffee shops or any other place, but just on military installations. And so I think those are just things to consider. There are policies and guidelines and rules, and also some things that related to ethics, who you can sell to, who you shouldn't, you know, because of your status and where they are in that in the organization that you have to be mindful of when you're going through that. If anybody buys stuff online, that's totally on them. It's like you making the active marketing pitch, you know, that can get into ethics issues.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, what are some like hacks that you have for people or even for yourself when it comes to writer's block?
Oh, well, I think one of them is find something else to write. And I've found that whether I'm writing a script for audio dramas or I'm doing poetry or I'm working on a novel right now, a science fiction style novel, whatever it is that I've got multiple projects at the same time. If one of them is having a difficult time, maybe I'll spend a few minutes and I'll see, is my writer's block based on I don't know where to go from here? If that's the case, well, maybe I just need to do a better outline and I need to think through, well, what do I want to have happen next? And I kind of go academic a little bit to try to break down what should be happening. And then I can get back into writing the events or the dialogue or whatever that was stumping me. If it's a script where I'm kind of in it right now, where I've got an adaptation of a script that I'm doing for Christmas as part of my audio drama company's production, I'm at a point now in the script where the logical flow has kind of left, and I'm trying to think through, I'm going to need to create a new character to come in to make sure that the person who is doing the action now has a logical reason to go somewhere else. And so I need to create a new character to come in because it's being adapted off of a short story, which was very narrative in nature. And I'm trying to make it an audio drama, which is very theatrical. So you've introduce new things and make some new dialogue and so forth. So I'm kind of thinking through that right now, but those are the tips or the hacks that I would give on that is find something else to write, find something, just don't stop, put it away and pretend you'll get back to it later, because you may not.
Yeah, good point.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mine is going to go back to family and personal life. So you are married to your high school sweetheart, which is amazing, and have raised 3 children while serving in the military. What has family support meant to you throughout your career?
Wow. As I'm looking retirement square in the eye in September of next year, it's easy to realize how much sacrifice the families make. I can be deployed and gone, and then people will say, thank you to me. Thank you for your sacrifice. And I'm like, well, I was just doing my job. I went overseas. I went to another base. I had colleagues and coworkers and chow halls and tracks and laundry service, and I had all kinds of things. It was my wife that was now stuck home with the kids, that was doing single parenting, that wasn't part of the deal. And that's a huge sacrifice. And sometimes that's 6 months. I think about this trip in Bosnia and Kosovo and Italy. I think about my first assignments in Korea. There was not FaceTime. There was no stable internet. This was you had to sign up once a week for a 15-minute morale call to be able to call home. And that was the only way that you could connect with your family. Thankfully, during these two, my oldest child was born in 2004. So these first 2 deployments were before kids. So it was really just me calling home to talk to my wife. But still, I mean, once a week for 15 minutes, and that was it. You may have had stable internet enough to where you could log on and send an email. And so you wrote it offline, and you got ready. And the minute you saw you were connected, you tried your best, copy it, paste it, send it, and then keep your fingers crossed and wait to see that it actually went. Right. So some of these things nowadays, that connectivity is so good. I mean, from Bagram, Afghanistan, I could FaceTime my wife anytime. There was an issue with the kids, or she's like, I just need to talk to somebody. Just call me. I mean, because it was all over the internet, internet service from on our iPhones, and they could just, have the FaceTime calls any time of the day. And so that kind of connectivity really helped in the deployed situations, but it really does also bring to light when those aren't possible. In some locations, they're still not, realistically. The families sacrifice way more than the military member does, because we're just moving from one military family to the next military unit, right? But it's the actual family back home that is the one that's sacrificing the most when we're not there. And so it's just something to really keep in the forefront and be grateful for the strength that she's brought to our family. And raising the kids has largely been her doing. They're in great shape, and I hope at some point I had something to do with it.
That is amazing. Kudos to your wife. She sounds like Superwoman over there. That is very impressive. Sure. And thank you for sharing that transparency, because this sounds like another day in the life of what you, being part of the military, have to deal with, you among many, right? And so these are some food for thought for people to consider, especially if they want to join the military. Hey, there is good, you're doing good, but this is what comes out of it as well, especially if you have a family, you're raising children, things like that, like you just shared. So thank you for being transparent with regards to that, for sure.
Absolutely.
Listen, this is good, because back in the day, Cece could attest, we're in Japan. We didn't have any WhatsApp or Messenger or FaceTime. We have to wait for the mailman to get a letter or a
Write
package.
letters. That's right. I didn't even talk about that. Yeah, the mail service going through the APO.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
the
now,
snail mail.
Yeah.
in Dubai, you're doing FaceTime, you're doing WhatsApp, you could talk to your family anywhere. So, you know, this is the good old days right now for people that are active right now.
Yeah.
Impressive. Yes. Before we pivot over to the last minute words, I do have one more question. But before I ask that, Nadine or Cece, do you all have any other questions?
Oh, no, I don't have any more questions.
No, I'm good.
I mean, yeah, I'm good.
All right. So what is next for you? Any other upcoming projects, books, creative endeavors? I know you do voiceover, theater, writing, poetry, so an author. Anything else on the horizon?
Well, yes. As far as writing is concerned, working now on my first novel, which has a working title, but we'll see how that all works out. But it's very much a science fiction. You know, if you want to think of it like Star Trek meets Indiana Jones, you know, it's a science fiction, spacefaring, archaeological discoveries, things like that. So working on that right now, about 100 pages in. So, you know, things are going well. On the audio drama side, I'm working right now on our script for our Christmas production. Because I'm a small business owner, right? With my audio drama company, I hire out my voice actors, I hire the cover artist, I hire the musician. So with the script writing, and I also voice usually one of the roles in our productions, I've got to start about in the summer in order to make sure that casting can happen, that the remote work for the materials can come into me, that the artist has enough time to do the cover, that I can get it to the musician enough time to do all the music so that I can have a Christmas time release. So that really encompasses a lot of work. It's quite a few hundred hours of very minute detail and listening. And because I'm building sound effects, it's not just like an audio book where it's a single person reading it. It's like a theater play, and it has sound effects so you can really be immersed in the production. And so that I'm working on now. And we've done one each of the last few years for Christmas, and they go over very well. So we're obviously keeping up with that. And then on the audiobook narration side, I've got 40 titles now on Audible as a narrator. And so I'm currently contracted for book number 41. And so we're working on that right now. So those are the things that are in progress. I'm not on stage at the moment. The stage work has kind of taken a back seat to some of the other audio and writing endeavors that I've been involved in. And then it's prepping for retirement next year, which venues are already booking up. So my wife and I are working on where we're going to do it. So it's been fun.
That is amazing. Congratulations. Yes, I love that. That is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we're going to pivot over to our last minute words. And this is an opportunity for you to share how people can find you, where people can buy your book, how they contact you, pretty much anything. If you have a quote you want to share or food for thought, whatever it is that you would like to say. So I'll have Nadine start us off. Then I'll have you go second, and then Cece will go third, and I'll close out the show for us.
Perfect.
Nadine, take it away.
I was about to say I'm mute more. But yes, hello again, guys. So, as you know, my name is Nadine Barton, the author, entrepreneur, and travel agent. And, I just want to always let you guys know that life is 10% of what happened to you and 90% of how you react. So make sure that you treat people kind, treat people nice, treat people how you want to be treated. And how you can find me, you can find me on Amazon. You can find my books on Amazon. You can find me at nadinebarton.com. You could also find me on Blog with Nadine. And here on Instagram, on Facebook, my name, as you see, Nadine Barton. On Instagram, Nadia B, NADIAB _1202. So again, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. All right.
Yeah. So I'm next. So that was great, Nadine. Absolutely. I totally agree. You can find my books on Amazon, on my website, markiewitzAudioworks.com. And there's a store link there that you can purchase autographed copies of the books and all of our audio drama productions on CDs and a variety of other things as well. I've got audio drama productions of Edgar Allan Poe and our Christmas productions and things out there, plus Audible download links for each one of our books that I've narrated. As far as a quote is concerned, there's a really good friend of mine when I was working for him back in Sacramento, let me in on a quote that is not something that he made up. I've heard it 1,000 times, but it's something that always sticks with me, and he mentions it over and over again, is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you're wondering about how to get over writer's block or any of those kind of things, just get going. Take the shot. Go do something, because you're gonna look back and you've got that opportunity, so take it.
Absolutely. I love that. That's really awesome. So you all know me. I'm Sienna the Actions with Inspire for Purpose and also Girls with Gigs, author, speaker, and a co-host here on Oyendia TV. Loving it. My quote is, remember, nothing positive ever came from negative thinking. I always want you to remember, love and light and inspire for purpose.
Beautiful. Thank you all for tuning in, watching, supporting. Thank you to our special guest, Colonel Markiewitz. Nadine, thank you for making that connection. Nadine and Cece for being amazing co-hosts and just all that you do. Also for me, I just want to take some time to acknowledge our sponsors. So not only do we have Nadine and Cece as our sponsors with their businesses, of course, and so make sure to please go check out their books, support their businesses, because they are here for the people. They are for the people, by the people. Yes. And also shout out to Collective Wear. We have Nadine's Travel Oasis and Divine Beauty and Accessories. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sponsored by Collective Wear. Available at www.yessirodriguez.com/shop and myrod-enterprise.com/shop.
Dream, explore, discover with Nadine's Travel Oasis. Your next adventure is just a booking away. From breathtaking beaches to vibrant cityscapes, we handle the details so you can make the memories. Luxury, leisure, or last-minute getaways, we've got you covered. Book today and let Nadine's Travel Oasis take you places. Sponsored by Divine Beauty and Accessories. Watch Oyendia TV Thursdays, 7:30 p.m.
All right. And for those who want to be guests and sponsors, of course, of Oyendia TV, simply email oyendiatv@gmail.com. For sponsors, subject line sponsor. For guest. Now with the guests, I do need a little bit more detail about why you want to be on, because, you know, we are for the people, by the people. This is about life, but we want to know, what do you want to talk about, right? Are you trying to promote a business? Are you just trying to conversate with us here? We do welcome you. So email oyendiatv@gmail.com. It is scrolling at the bottom of your page view here. And also, like I always say, for those who want to find me, just Google Yessie Rodriguez, Yesse Rodriguez, and you pull up who I am, what I'm about, and my social media pages, my website. I do have the Actors Workshop coming soon, so that is in the works, and I am excited to share more details very, very, very soon. So I'm going to keep you on the toes with that information. Also, my quote that I always love to say is, the sky is never the limit because the galaxies are endless. Thank you all for tuning into Oyendia TV. Until next week.